Hello, hello. Welcome to NJ Thrives, a small business webinar. Today is Tuesday, November 14th. You're attending NJSBDC's weekly webinars created to help New Jersey small business owners start, grow, and thrive. I hope everyone is doing well today. Thank you for attending. My name is Uzma Sheikh. I am a consultant here at NJSBDC, and that stands for New Jersey Small Business Development Centers Network. We are a statewide program powered by the SBA, which stands for the Small Business Administration, and partners to help small businesses in New Jersey with mainly three things: no cost small business consulting, training and events just like this one starting at $0, and exclusive small business resources. If you look on the map here on the right, you'll see that is the map of New Jersey, and you'll see it being divided in counties. And where you see the small SBDC logo is where our regional centers are located. So if you're interested in receiving counseling, that's where you'll find our regional centers to be. If you're new here, or if you have been attending, thank you so much for attending. If you're new, we appreciate you being here, and we hope that you learn a lot from today's webinar. So just for engagement and for letting us know who we're presenting to, let us know in the chat who you are, where you're from, what your small business is about. If you have any social media to share, a website, phone number, email, anything like that. And you never know, you'll find your next investor, supporter, cheerleader, friend, and it's always good to network, even if we're not together physically in a physical space. So today's webinar is how to start a business with $0 NJSBDC support. This is a multi-session webinar series created to provide startup assistance and help New Jersey aspiring entrepreneurs start, grow, and thrive. If you were here last Tuesday, then you know that we have started this new series for starting a business. If you attend our Thursday webinars, you'll see that this is being held on a Tuesday, but it is a little different than our usual Thursday webinars. I have some headlines to share with you today, and then we'll get to our presentation and then a Q&A. So some headlines, they're very brief. They're not, long at all. And then I'll share the links here with you in the chat. So give me just one moment. I'll share the links, and I will get to the headlines just so everyone can click on them, open them, read them on your own. All right. So the first link is a press release from the SBA. The SBA Administrator Isabel Guzman encourages shopping small November 25th for Small Business Saturday. It's already that time, end of the year, which means, shop small, and Small Business Saturday is already here. And if you don't know what this is, it's encouraging the nation, everyday people, small business owners to shop, dine, and entertain at a local small business on November 25th, especially. You should always shop small, but especially on November 25th, to celebrate this occasion and throughout the holiday season that starts with Thanksgiving and then on to the New Year and all the holidays that come up. Small Business Saturday celebrate each year on the Saturday after Thanksgiving. So Thursday, Thanksgiving, Black Friday, and then Saturday, shop small. So if you are observing this is a great opportunity for small business owners to get in this opportunity and celebrate with your local community. Second is from NJEDA, released just yesterday. They are launching second phase of Cannabis Equity Grant Program. Phase 2 offers $150,000 in grants to qualifying social equity applicants. This opens on November 30th at 10 a.m. This is the second phase, remember that. Largest grant of its kind in the nation, providing each eligible entrepreneur with a seed equity grant at no cost technical assistance. They are hosting a webinar about this. Well, they hosted at 6 p.m. yesterday. I'm sure it will be available for viewing somewhere if you go to any of their website or socials, and you can find it there. If not, then you can just reach out to them at this customer care or the website. Third and final is also from NJEDA to open applications for historic property reinvestment program. We did share this. However, the applications do open on Wednesday, November 29th. So just a reminder, if this is applicable to you, and they will close on Thursday, February 29th. All the information can be found on the link there. All right, let me get back to my presentation quickly. I will share the links as soon as I'm done presenting here. All right, some housekeeping rules for everyone. So if you have anything to say, please do so, as I can see where you're from and what you do in the chat. So you are sharing those things in the chat. But if you have specific questions that you want to ask our presenter and you would like that to be addressed in the Q&A session that we have, please put them in the Q&A box that we have right next to the chat. And we do have a 3-minute survey that you can do to receive the slides from the presenter. So all you have to do is click on the link that is being shared. You go click on you fill out the survey, it won't take you long at all. And once you hit submit, then it'll bring you to a screen on Google, and it will share you that link from Google Drive where the resources are. All right, so we have Vanessa Schwartz. Welcome, Vanessa. Vanessa is one of our NJSBDC consultants. This is our session 2 with how to start a business with $0 NJSBDC support. We did this last Tuesday, and it was, we really, it was a hit with our audience, and we're going to continue to do this. So thank you, Vanessa, and welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Isma. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. This happened last week as well. I must learn. Let's start at the beginning. Okay, so thank you so much. Thank you again, Uzma, for helping us today and for all that great information. And thank you for everybody who is joining. So whether you are somebody who wants to take your hobby to the next level, or you're interested in pursuing a side hustle, or maybe a professional in your own space and believe the time is right to venture into entrepreneurship, I think making the time today to educate yourself on the process, the costs, legal requirements, and tax consequences, all of that is critical. And it really can make a difference in your potential for success. And so we're excited that you're able to join us. The NJSBDC, we assist all those who are either looking to start their business and have not yet legally formed or registered, as well as those who are already in business and have other questions about anything relating to getting started, growing, and basically all things small business related. So the purpose of the presentation today is we're going to guide you and we'll show you where you can go ahead and request counseling. But we really are trying to reach out to those out there who have not yet formally formed or registered their business. We are here to make sure that if you are ready to go in that direction, that you are doing it properly, that you are doing it in a correct fashion, and that you are successful from the get-go. And that's what this presentation is largely about. But also, please realize if you are already in business, you've already formed, you've already registered, and you have questions about that process and whether it was done correctly and where to go from here, this is also a great presentation for you. And we will explain at the end of the presentation that if you'd like to follow up with counseling, how to go about doing that so that you can speak to a consultant who will be able to take a look at what you've done and make sure that what you've done is in fact correct. Okay, so we're going to move forward. Basically, the point of today, once again, is to talk about the different business structures that are available to you if you are in the process of legally forming and registering a business in New Jersey. We'll discuss the formation and registration process. In that as well, we will discuss the New Jersey state regulations for formation and registration with respect to certain industries and where to go and what resources you have available to make sure that you're doing everything that is proper in your business venture with respect to licensing for certain businesses and industries. We'll talk a little bit about taxes. And we will also a little bit about basically your initial funding and cash management needs. We want to also point out a couple of things with respect to what a small business may need going forward in terms of additional resources. And we really want to specify how the NJSBDC is here for you through your next steps beyond the formation and registration process and what other opportunities are available to help your business grow and thrive. So the first thing to talk about is just a little bit about what is available to you in terms of structure. Very often we hear different terminology and different phrases used, and they are somewhat interchanged. And we want to make sure that you understand what it is you're speaking about when it comes to your business and how you are structured, because it has different implications with respect to your liability and your taxes. So the one option for any small business is what we would call the sole proprietorship. A sole proprietor is basically a business. Sometimes you will see what I would call the hobby business, that something that you have enjoyed, something that you're doing that you think is growing and is moving in a direction that you would like to structure in a more I guess structured fashion, we'll say. And you don't want to spend a lot of money, but you do want to establish a trade name. Very often the sole proprietorship is the direction that might work best for you. A trade name, we'll call it, this is in terminology, it's called establishing a trade name, is something that you can achieve or obtain by basically going to your municipality. And within your county clerk's office, within the county you live, there's an application to apply for this trade name. So it costs about $50, $60. It requires a notary. You'll have a sign off. You mail everything in. The county clerk will stamp the approval. Your name will be unique within the county that you are living and working. And you'll be able to, with, again, a $50, $60 charge, establish this sole proprietorship. When you have a sole proprietorship, you are allowed to use your social security number as your tax ID number. Sometimes more lately, we'll see that more sole props are going in the direction of taking the extra step to go to the IRS and obtain a EIN number, which stands for Employer Identification Number. Although it's not legally required if you're a sole prop, it does help prevent or minimize any sort of situation where you might be at risk to have your social security number out there. It protects your personal social security number by having the tax ID assigned from the IRS. So that is a free process. It can be found at irs.gov. It's an online process. It's something we could assist you with and walk you through it. And that would allow you to assign a separate tax ID number to your sole proprietorship and your trade name. In a sole proprietorship, your personal banking account is perfectly acceptable to use in order to deposit the revenue that you receive as a result of the business you are transacting. Tax purposes for filing income taxes, very simple process. It's a Schedule C, basically, which is an attachment to your personal income tax return. So any income that is generated from your business gets passed through directly through your personal income tax return. And we don't have what is called a required legal separation between yourself, the person, and the assets of your business. The downside to a sole prop is that you have no liability protection. If you were to run, say, a delivery service for your sole prop, and you were, say, delivering food, and God forbid, you were to get into a horrible accident, you could be personally sued and lose everything. There's no separate structure that will separate the two of your business and yourself. So again, no liability protection with the sole prop. Moving forward on the continuum of liability protection, the next business entity structure we talk about, which I believe is the most, probably the most common for the small business, is the limited liability company, known as the LLC. It's a little bit more expensive, but not terribly expensive. For $128, you may form your business in the state of New Jersey. For $75 a year, you'll be able to maintain it. It's just paying annual dues to maintain that legal business structure. And the stipulation here is that you are required to have a tax ID number from the IRS assigned to your LLC. Again, it is free, irs.gov. You will follow the process. This is something that we would be able to walk through with you and make sure that it is all done correctly. You are required to have a separate business banking account. You must separate your personal assets and your income and your personal bank account from the business. We're not allowed to commingle a business account assigned to your LLC with a personal bank account. And in terms of taxation, which we can discuss in more detail, and it's certainly something we can discuss when we are assisting you in the formation and registration of your business, LLCs are allowed to choose how they wish to be taxed. So if you are a single member LLC, meaning one person, you default to the Schedule C. If you recall, I mentioned that the Schedule C is what's used in the sole proprietorship return. A benefit is that even if you're an LLC, if you are the single member means owner in LLC terminology, you are allowed to be taxed as if you were a sole proprietorship, the simple Schedule C. If you are a multi-member LLC and there's more than one, the LLC would generally default for tax purposes to what we know as the partnership tax filing. You're not a partnership, but you will be taxed as if you were a partnership. And partnerships are required to file Form 1065s, which is basically a separate tax return for the business. At the end of the Form 1065, each of the individual members' respective income from the business will then get calculated in separate tax forms that will then flow through to each individual member's personal tax returns. That is known as a K-1. But again, something that we can discuss together if you have any questions, or certainly if you have an accountant, this would be easily discussed. And then the last way you can be taxed as a LLC is to be taxed as an S corp. We're going to get a little more into that. We're not going to spend a ton of time on it because the purpose of this presentation is not to be an accounting lesson, but we want you to hear it at least for the first time so that it's not completely foreign to you if somebody says, well, why don't you be taxed as an S corp, or how come you're not taxed as a partnership? And then you're confused because you say, but I'm an LLC. Just know that the LLC does allow the business owners to select the taxation method. And the form 1120, basically, as you can see on the slide, is the form you would file if you choose to be taxed as a S corp. Limited liability is limited liability. It provides you protection in that the assets that are held within the umbrella of the LLC are separate from your personal assets. So, God forbid, you are that driver who is delivering an order, you get into a car accident and you are to be sued, you are liable up unto the amount of the assets that are held within the business. Now, any probably good lawyer would say, well, that's limited liability. I think any, God forbid, again, catastrophic situation, there's no full protection there if there's a sense of some sort of personal negligence. But if it's something within the realm of a normal liability, whether it's a debt, whether it's some sort of a lawsuit or collection of funds, you're only held liable for the assets that are within the business. And the most strongest liability protection is your corporation. It is the strongest protection that you could establish for yourself as a company, as a corporate, as a business entity. It's a little bit more cumbersome. You are required to establish bylaws. You would create a board of directors. You're required to hold shareholder meetings. You would have a separate tax return for that corporation, and you would be subject to corporate tax laws. So if you often have heard that there's a double taxation problem when it comes to having a corporation, it just means that the corporation gets taxed twice if you're the owner, at the company level, at the corporate tax rate, and then any profits distributed to shareholders in the form of dividends are then taxed again at your personal share level. Now, some may say, well, why would a small business, especially if you're one person, ever want to be a corporation? There are times where it may be appropriate. I think of trucking industry, maybe a general contractor, a handyman, a builder, where there is more risk and potential liability, and where insurance really is necessary. And there are certain vendors that only really want to do business with corporations because of the comfort level of knowing of who they're doing business with has the strongest protection. You may see a small business decide to incorporate, and I've seen, even if it's just one person may decide to incorporate, and then they have asked, well, do I hold shareholder meetings just for myself? The answer is yes, but it's all in paperwork form. As long as you have the paperwork filed and everything in order, you could be the sole owner of a corporation, and as long as you're continuing to follow all the requirements that are required of you. We'll get into it again a little bit later, but if you do decide to incorporate, you do have an option to establish yourself as a S corp as opposed to a C corp. Just like the LLC can choose to be taxed as an S corp, a corporation that wants to avoid the double taxation laws can elect to be considered an S corp, and there's paperwork and filings that you would go about doing that. Basically, what that allows you to do is avoid the double taxation. S corps do have separate filings for the returns, but the income is taxed once, and as it is distributed among the owners of the business, and everybody would basically pay the income tax that is appropriate for their share. Okay. So just so you know, both of these options are all done online through the NJ portal. You don't have to deal with the county clerk's office. The state has a website. We're going to talk a little bit more about it. There is the link right there, but you'll be able to do all of this through the online New Jersey portal, be able to form an LLC or a corporation. And I think I just went through this, the differences between a C Corp and an S Corp. If anybody has any questions, we can talk about it. But really, the purpose of today is really just to give you some understanding of the different types of business structures, but primarily focus on the LLC formation and how we can assist you going through that process from start to finish. Which brings me to the next slide. We want you to get it right the first time. We encourage you not to pay a third party to form your LLC. If you can do it by yourself, you should be able to do it by yourself, because understanding the steps goes a long way in understanding your business and understanding your requirements as a business owner. But we also recognize that what may seem easy to us because we're always on that portal and we know what to do, for somebody who hasn't done it before, there could be questions. Even though it's meant to be self-sufficient and maybe something you can do on your own, because there might be decisions you have to make or you're not quite sure how to answer certain questions, we say just leave it up to us. Register for counseling, sit down with a counselor, myself. We will help you from start to finish to get you formed and registered at no cost for you. We make sure you understand the terminology. We make sure you familiar yourself with the portal, where anything that you need regarding your business can be found at the portal. You want to make sure you're not on some third-party site that says that they're part of the government, and then you pay money to do something that you do not need to pay money to do, when in fact you would be able to do it yourself if you navigated through the portal. We want to make sure in forming your business and registering your business and doing it yourself, as opposed to having a legal Zoom or a lawyer or accountant do it, that you understand the obligations. You know and remember that every year at the anniversary of your formation, you're required to pay $75 to the state of New Jersey. Make sure you understand your legal requirements. Make sure you understand that you need to have a separate business bank account. And we help you to understand how to keep your documents organized, which documents are important and accessible. For example, when you open up your business bank account, when you go to the bank, you do have to bring your certificate of formation, and you do have to bring your letter from the IRS with your assigned tax ID number. So these are the types of things we make sure that you're equipped and understanding of. And also, we'll give you some idea about how to maintain your records and discuss with you how, whether it's a ledger or you're using QuickBooks, why it's very important as you're forming your business that you keep track of all your finances. So to hone in, people often, and understandably so, are confused by the formation registration. You'll hear business owners say, well, I registered my business. But in fact, maybe what they did is only formed it. In New Jersey, it is a 3-step process in getting an LLC up and running. One of the steps is obtaining the EIN from the IRS. So we talked about that. That does not cost anything. The formation is the legal forming of the business entity. That costs $128 to do, paid to New Jersey. We'll go over that again. But that establishes the legality of the business entity. The last piece that's often overlooked is once you form and once you get your tax ID, you have to go and register that business with the Division of Revenue and Treasury Services. basically allowing you to transact business in New Jersey. When overlooked, it can create an issue for the business owner down the line. We had this issue during COVID when many businesses, small businesses, were trying to take advantage of some of the programs that were being offered. You were required to be a legal registered business in New Jersey. Businesses that have been operating for years, because they thought they were formed, they were LLCs, realized at that time that they never in fact registered that business with the state, and so they were not recognized as legally allowed to transact business, and they were prohibited from receiving some funding. So what often stumps me is I wish it was a little bit clearer when you're on the New Jersey portal that this is a multi-step process. But what really bothers me is I have seen so many companies, businesses that have come to us who have had their businesses formed by either LegalZoom or accountants, and they find out that they paid all this money to get their business formed, and then the third party never registered the business owner. So I can understand why that might be the case, because there are personal decisions that have to be made by the business owner when they're going to register, because there's tax questions, there's social security questions, there's, if it's a multi-member, there's questions of how you want to divide the profits. But you would think at a minimum that that third party would at least equip you and tell you that you have to do this. And from what I have seen, many have not. They hand over your certificate of formation. They say, good luck. They collect their hundreds of dollars, and they leave the business owner thinking that they're done, but they are not. That is why, do it with us. We will walk you through the process, and we will make sure that you are done and that you have done it correctly. Okay. So what will you need to have? Well, you will need to have a unique business name. So as opposed to the sole proprietorship that requires you to have a unique name within your county, an LLC requires you to have a unique name within the state. So within the portal, you'll be able to look up and see whether the name that you would like to use is in fact unique. You will also need to have your EIN, which we have discussed. Again, this is free. Don't get caught in a situation where you think you're on the IRS website, you see something that looks very legit, and you apply for an EIN, and at the end of the process, there's a little, pay now button. No, you do not pay for an EIN. That is a third party charging you for them to get your EIN number. The other thing you'll need to know is your industry codes. The NAICS is basically, it's a national coding system that will help for statistical purposes, help identify what type of business you're looking to form. New Jersey keeps track of this. And then New Jersey has their own industry codes. Within the application itself, you'll be able to click on a link and be able to scroll through and see what applies to you. You'll need a registered agent. Very often, the registered agent is yourself. You don't have to have a separate registered agent in New Jersey, as long as the agent is living in the state and has an address within the state. You can use yourself. Now, sometimes there are businesses that don't want to have their own name or address listed as the registered agent, in which case you can use a PO box for your registered agent. However, it has to be within a post office or a location where there is a street address. There has to be a building. The point being is that if someone needs to reach you and needs to speak with someone in person, they have to be able to go to a building and be able to walk in and have some contact with a human being. Now, there are services that you can also hire. they may be actually more cost effective as opposed to renting a PO box at a post office. I've seen a couple that are as little as about $49, $50 a year. They will be your New Jersey registered agent. They'll make sure they keep track of all your mail, and they will serve that purpose of having that brick and mortar location that can be listed as your represented registered agent. If you're more than one owner in a business, you need an operating agreement. Lawyer is optional. You don't necessarily have to have a lawyer. The purpose of the operating agreement is to spell out on paper and to hold within a safe space what your decisions are among the members on how the money is going to be distributed, whether it be from profits, or if you were to dissolve your business, how you would break out the assets, or even upon the initial formation, how much capital contribution each of the owners may contribute to the business, or if maybe somebody contributes nothing, but they're going to be working full time at the location. All of this should be spelled out within an operating agreement. In my experience, the one of the only places that may ask you for an operating agreement at the get-go is the bank. When you're going to open up your business bank account, if there's more than one owner, they may ask to see your operating agreement. Otherwise, it depends. Maybe it depends on what it is you're doing. But at any given time, very important to protect yourself, that you have spelt out in writing what your wishes are with respect to running a business with somebody when it's more than just yourself. So again, the cost to form is $125 with the $3.50 processing fee, all done online. You can use a credit or debit card. They also will accept e-checks. And the last thing that you will need is make sure you know the names, addresses, and social security numbers of any of the owners who will be forming the business with you. Okay, I think that's that with that slide. Now, these are some things you'll need to know. You will need to know how you wish to be taxed. These questions come up in that third part, the registration part. The state will want to know, do you want to be taxed with using a Schedule C? Are you more than one member? Would you like to be taxed as a partner? Or is there a scenario at this point in time that you would like to be taxed as an S corp? What's nice is that you can make your decision, but you can change that at any time. Very often you will see LLCs start out as Schedule C filers or 1065 filers, and over time, there becomes a moment in the time where their profits get to a point where it becomes more tax advantageous to be taxed as an S corp. We won't get into that too much today, but that is something we can talk to you more about. Ultimately, I would always say your accountant should be the one who decides, or if you're very good with understanding your tax obligations, there is a certain point in time where it does become more advantageous for an LLC to be taxed as an S corp. You want to make sure you understand what you're doing. If you're selling goods or services, are you subject to New Jersey state sales tax? There is a process for that. It's all on the portal. If you have to go ahead and remit sales tax that you have collected due to the transaction and selling of goods, you as a business owner will be required to collect the sales tax, hold it, and then quarterly remit it to the state. We can help you do all of that. We can assist you on what that means, where to go. It's actually quite user friendly. And, very oftentimes you might think that your services are not subject to sales tax because you would think, okay, generally speaking, services are not subject to sales tax, except when they are. Same thing goes for goods. Most goods are subject to sales tax when you're selling a good, except when they are not. So New Jersey has a webpage. We have the link further on in the presentation where you can look it up. You can say, hey, what am I doing? Am I required to charge sales tax when I sell this perfume or provide this service? you'll be able to identify. Some of it is pretty straightforward, but some of it does get tricky. Housekeeping services are required to charge sales tax to those who are using their services. So that's not something that I had known prior to working in this capacity. You think a service is a service, but there is not only is there a booklet that's available for you, the hotline help desk in Trenton for small business is very accessible and helpful. And if you ever had a question, we can also put you in touch with somebody who could assist you there. You also need to know if your business requires additional registrations or certifications, insurance thresholds, and important as well, workers' compensation. Just an example for that is if you want to be a handyman or you're opening up a contractor, a general contractor business, there is an additional registration for a general contractor that you'll have to fill out. There is a fee. There are certifications required for handling of food, for home health aides. So there are websites for New Jersey where you can look up, we can assist you with that if there's additional licensing required for what you are doing. And then you'll have to, at some point, identify a bank where you would like to open up your account. Okay, so these are just some links. You'll have access to all of these links to, be able to browse through. Once you fill out the survey following the presentation, the NJSBDC does give you access to this slide presentation. And here is outlined a bunch of sites that you can go to learn a little bit more about these options. Okay. And then the other item is, just so you know, when you are starting up a business and you're speaking to a counselor, we can assist and discuss all sorts of items. Are you ready? Do you have the cash that you need to get the business going? Do you have the operating cash needed to keep the business moving? What are your personal budget considerations? Do you need additional sources of capital? What does that look like from the lender? Understanding of your financial statements, the income statement, the balance sheet, and cash flow. Boring topics, I understand, but very critical to the small business owner. And the NJSBDC has a number of resources available to help you and help you as a business owner get more comfortable with the math and the financing part of running a business. And that includes bookkeeping. We have some great QuickBook labs, and they've been very helpful. And again, really starts at zero costs. Sometimes there might be a small fee, but we would say the majority of what we offer is at no cost to you. And then sometimes we'll talk a little bit about, as we're mentoring you, when is it appropriate to have an accountant? When do you call in a lawyer? Insurance. When it comes to lending, we can prep you for your lending, your business plan, your projections. What are you looking at in terms of your marketing strategy? We have counselors who are solely focused on these items, who might be able to assist you on that. We'd like to be considered business mentors and help you in all aspects of growing your business. And then lastly, other items, if you're interested in procurement, government contracts, we assist through the helping you obtain your NJ state certifications as women, minority, veteran, disabled veteran, and LGBTQ+ certifications for the purposes of becoming perhaps a government contractor, as well as just the small business enterprise. Even if you're not a woman or a minority or the other designations that I mentioned, just by being a small business, we are able to assist you to get that small business certification so that if you are interested in procurement down the line, there are many opportunities where you might see the state and federal government, corporations that would like to or have to allocate certain amount of their contracts to small businesses. So having that certification really helps. Again, help with the lending. The NJEDA, as Uzma had talked about in the beginning, we work very closely with them, and we would love to be able to assist you in any of their programming. And also, again, so many of our webinars are available right online on all sorts of topics. We will remain a resource for you as you start and grow your business. Okay, so this here is fancy slide. If you are not in business and you are really, just ready to go and would like or need assistance in the formation and registration of your business, please follow either the QR link or the link to talk with Vanessa. And that is for people who are not currently in business. Then down below, if you are already in business, you're not quite sure if you did it correctly, you have questions on any of the other items that we might have mentioned, you will use the secondary QR code, which would put you in touch with somebody as well to go through all of your questions. And I think with that, I am done, and we can open up to Q&A. If anybody's interested in hanging out for a little while, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, we certainly do have questions that have come up. But first of all, thank you, Vanessa. Oh, here's my video. Sorry. Here's my video. Yeah, so we do have questions. We have about 10. Before we answer them, let me just remind our audience that this webinar is being recorded. It has been recorded since the beginning. So this will be available on our website that in the next 2 to 3 business days. You can view our entire video library there, not just Vanessa's webinars, but also other webinars. So if you're interested, please go visit the links that I've been sharing. If you'd like to receive the slides that Vanessa shared, please complete our survey that you can find in the links that I've shared. I will just share them once again so you have access and you can see them. Once you complete that survey, which I also mentioned in the beginning, the slides will be available with the link. Vanessa, you're getting comments in the chat that this was a great presentation. Thank you for them. A job well done and very informative.
Thank you.
And we appreciate everyone sharing that feedback. So if you can share that feedback in the survey that we do, that would be great.
Thank you.
Yeah. So let's get to our Q&A. And at the end, if we have time, we do have time, we'll be, I can share those, I can pull up those links on my end and show everybody. But all right, so first question from Lashona. Thank you, Lashona, for your question. They ask, do you get a business bank account and then an LLC or vice versa?
Vice versa, because you cannot open a business bank account until you are able to physically show the certificate of formation and the IRS letter with your tax ID. That has to match. And once they see that, then they'll open up the business account.
Yep. And thank you to Rose and Raul who helped answer that question as well. All right, we have our next question from Evelyn. Is there a maximum income for maintaining an S Corp status?
There is not a specific maximum. The way I would answer that is, general rule of thumb, if your net income starts to grow to a point where it would be what you would consider a salary of what you would pay the person who is doing your job, it's probably time to start looking into it, because what happens is, as a self-employed individual, as an LLC owner, you are subject to self-employment taxes, which is fine. That's the way it goes. It can get quite expensive. When the net income grows, one way to shield yourself from taxes is to put yourself on payroll, which means that you are now paying yourself as an expense line item on your income statement, thereby reducing your total net income. And as a payroll employee of your company, you have payroll deductions. So we're getting into some accounting here, but when you calculate at the end of the day, and this is something that can easily be done either with an accountant or if you have the software, you can run a scenario of what your tax obligation would be if you were being taxed as a Schedule C versus what your tax obligation would be if you were running it through as an S Corp. And you could see the bottom line, which one is more burdensome. And if you're now at a point where you've tipped the scales and it's more cost effective to be taxed as an S Corp, that's when you would make that transition. The reason why I can't just give you a straight out number is because some of it will also have to do with if you're filing jointly. So if you have a spouse and you're filing jointly, and depending on your tax bracket, that can also affect that calculation. But I hope that at least explains the theory behind it, that when you are allowed to be considered an employee of your company, you're now an employee and the business owner. And as the employee, you are wearing two hats. You'll have payroll deduction as the employee, but the employer also has payroll expenses. Expenses reduce your net income. So you can see how potentially the accounting is set up that you can at some point potentially lower your tax burden.
All right. Hopefully that answers your question, Evelyn. We have a question from Anonymous. They ask, can you talk about privacy when establishing your business? What if I don't want my home address online and I don't have another address I can use? Do you recommend virtual mail?
There are there's actually three places where an address comes into play. You'll be asked for an address on the EIN IRS.gov application. I always say that's your business with the IRS. You should use your address where you can be reached, or at least that's something that you don't have to worry about shielding. Then there is a place where you would have your business address. If you do not want to use your home address, you can use a virtual address. You can use a PO box. That's totally fine. The last place where an address comes into play is the registered agent. As for the registered agent, you have to have a physical location. So if you're not going to hire a registered agent and you don't want to use your own home address, you have to invest in a PO box with a post office that has a street address. So I hope that answers the question. So there are ways that you don't have to have your home address out there.
Got it. Sophia asks, is it possible to change the structure once the business is formed?
Depends. It depends. So with the sole proprietor, say you're a sole proprietorship and you say, oh, at some point, I think I'm going to be an LLC. There is no transitioning a sole prop to an LLC. The process is you close your sole prop and you start your LLC, because the LLC requires a fresh EIN number assigned to the unique New Jersey name. Now, LLC to corporation, there's a process for that, and each state is different. So I don't want to get caught too much on that right now, but I believe there is a process for making that transition from an LLC to corporation. But very often you basically dissolve one. If there's no assets, you close one, you can start another. And sometimes there's a question about whether or not you want to maintain your EIN. So I'd have to get back to you on that. I always have to look that up. But definitely sole prop to LLC, it's a separate process. You have to close the sole prop to open your LLC.
Right. We have a question from Bossy who asked, if you used an agency to form and register an LLC, what do you need to do if you no longer want to renew with the agency and want to do it on your own?
That is a great question. There's got to be a customer service, a number, something. I would contact them immediately and end the relationship. And then what I would do is it's called changing, you have to change your registered agent. You go onto the portal, you'll see there's an option there for changing a registered agent, and you log in and you put the registered agent that you want. And New Jersey charges $25 to do that.
All right. Next question is from Rose, Anonymous, who asks, as a solopreneur, do I need workers' compensation? I saw this question online when I registered my business.
Right, right. If you're an LLC owner, if it's an LLC, you said solopreneur. I if
Solo
well,
entrepreneur.
solo entrepreneur. Okay, so again with the terminology, the sole proprietorship, and then sometimes you might see single member or sole entrepreneur if you have the LLC. So maybe you can, if you want to specify, but no, LLC owners do not need to have workers' compensation for themselves because they are owners. Now you may need some business insurance. It can get a little bit tricky. There have been a lot of, it has been somewhat of a gray area um, with respect to independent contractors versus employees. Like now, this is if you start, I mean, basically, workers' compensation is if you have employees. But in this day and age, when you see so many independent contractors out there working for companies, the safe thing to do is to carry workers' comp. And it's not something I really would want to get into so much right now. It's something we could discuss offline, but I'd always encourage you to speak to an insurance agent because you don't want to take chances when it comes to a workers' compensation question. I don't know that may or may not have answered your question, but it is a very good one. You want to make sure that you're not liable, but owners of their own businesses are not required to have workers' compensation for themselves. No.
Got it. Thank you for that. We have a question from Kim who asks, what if we would like to use one name but DBA under another name? Do we need to change everything again? And Vanessa, as you answer that, if you can just quickly explain what DBA is, as we have another question asking that.
Yes, that is a great question. DBA stands for doing business as. In New Jersey, it's referred to filing an alternate business name, or sometimes you might see it referred to as a trade name. That gets a little confusing because we use the word trade name for the sole proprietorships. But for the purposes of the LLC, if you already have your LLC and you have your LLC unique name, if you would like to file an alternate business name, you go to the portal. There's an option filing. There's an option to amend your LLC, and underneath that, file an alternate business name. It costs $50 for 5 years. At the end of the 5 years, you renew that. And it really is a great alternative for those who may have separate businesses running under the same LLC that have nothing to do with one another. And they want that alternate business name because they want to be able to market themselves in such a way that there's some understanding of what you do in your name. So that is a great option. And you can have as many DBAs as you want, or alternate business names as you'd like. The only time that it is problematic, and I would not recommend doing it, is that you do not want to you want to make sure that whatever it is you're doing in your business lines, that the liability is comparable. You don't want to have some very dangerous situation in your business umbrella where you're doing something and then God forbid something happens. Remember, all the assets held within the LLC are now at risk. So we would never start a real estate investment DBA under a LLC umbrella where you are holding, say, that food delivery situation. So remember, if you were to, God forbid, get into a car accident, but in your LLC umbrella, you also have, Vanessa's beachfront rentals, and God forbid you're sued, you'd lose your property. So it's really more for the ability to alternate or vary your marketing efforts.
All right, awesome. Hopefully, Kim, that answers your question. If not, please let us know in the chat or just follow up with another question. Okay, we have Evelyn asking, what is the economic census? I received a notification from United States Department of Commerce, U.S. Census Bureau, that I didn't submit it. I have never seen it before, and the mailing looks a lot like many advertisement mailing.
So if you're referring to the paperwork that you are bombarded with after you form and register your LLC, I would say throw it all out. uh, the only thing that you are liable for as an LLC owner to keep your LLC in good standing is your $75 annual dues that are due around the time of your formation, at the anniversary of your formation. Now, now I can't speak to what you may want to speak to somebody offline about it or make an appointment. If you're not sure, we can look at it. But I do know that after you register your business, your form and register, there are several solicitations that come immediately. One is something that looks very official that says, pay us to get your certificate of good standing. Throw that out. If you ever need a certificate of good standing for whatever reason, you go onto the portal and you pay for it yourself. It costs, I think, $50 to get a certificate of good standing, paid directly to New Jersey. The solicitation is coming from a third party that is asking you to pay them about 120 something dollars so they can go into your portal for you and get your certificate of good standing. Number one, you most likely do not need a certificate of good standing. And if you ever did, you'll know it because somebody will ask for one and you will get it yourself for $50. So that's one that can get thrown out. They look very official. Now they're coming from Trenton, so they have Trenton addresses, but it is a third party. Same thing when it comes time to renewing your annual dues. $75 is how much it costs to renew your LLC and to stay in good standing. You'll get some solicitations asking for you to pay $150 so that they can do it for you. That's what we want to avoid. Another one is the labor law poster. You'll get some kind of solicitation that you have to pay $80 or so for a labor law poster. Throw it out. You most likely do not need a labor law poster. And if you ever did, you can get it yourself. And it's free.
Yep, exactly. And if I can just quickly speak to that, when I registered my business earlier in the year, it's very exciting. You do it, and you're like, "Ooh, I have my own business." Like, it's something like very cool that happens, right? Literally a week after or 2 weeks after, I get like 2, 3 emails, and I wasn't prepared for that. And they look very official. They look very like, oh my God, I could get in trouble if I don't answer this, right? But you go through those, you open them, you use your good judgment, and you look at them, and it will have some of those words that throw you off. And if your gut feeling says this is not the right thing to do, you should not be paying anything to anyone who doesn't have an official stamp or like the US logo, government logo, or something
go.
like that, don't go for it. Be careful. Don't share your information. Don't reply. It's fine. If
Yeah.
anything, if it's the state of New Jersey or whatever, it will be official. So just be careful.
Or just, make that extra phone call. You can check with
Exactly.
one of us or call, and I don't want to confuse anybody because there's a difference between your LLC legal requirements, which is the $75 a year, and then any kind of tax requirements. So even though the LLC only costs $75 a year to maintain, separately, you will have to understand at some point that as you are making money, you will be on the hook to make sure you pay your income taxes.
Yeah.
So that's different. But it shouldn't come in the form, everything, as Uzma so accurately said, should be from either Division of Revenue and Enterprise Services
Mhm.
or nj.gov.
Yes, exactly. Uh, Moving on to the next question from Rose, who asks, where do I go to find the information for the new changes of the LLC in 2024?
Gosh, this came up last week, and
It did.
I'm kind of now embarrassed to say I don't know what you're referring to. Um, or maybe we call it something different. Can she be more specific?
All right. So Rose, either follow up in the chat or that question.
And
And if you
I'll
could
look
just
in the
clarify to that, please.
yeah.
Thank
Let's
you.
get back to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I can answer this next question. It's from David. David asks, does the NJSBDC have a confidentiality slash NDA slash non-use form that you sign before providing business counseling of a confidential nature? That is a very good question. Thank you for asking that. Yes, you do. We, as consultants, we have our confidentiality agreement that we as consultants have to sign. When we become, a consultant with the NJSBDC network, that all the information that we see from our clients is confidential. It is stored in a software. We can only log in to that software, um, that website, for the use of client counseling, and it's very uh sorry, I just blanked on the word, but it's completely safe because we are funded by the SBA, partially funded by the SBA, which is the Small Business Administration. So yes, we do sign a confidentiality form, and when you as a client register on our website, you also sign an agreement, basically, that everything that you share is, at your own will. And when we speak as consultants with our clients, the conversations are saved into that software just for business purposes, never for personal purposes. So that hopefully that answers your question. We legally cannot share any information that clients share with us, not even the name, not even the business name, unless we have explicit permission from you. Vanessa, do you want to add anything to that?
No, that's exactly right. I am looking a little bit about the changes.
Mm-hmm.
I know what I know what they're referring to now. I've seen it.
Got it.
Honestly, it just looks like additional paperwork. It looks like after January 1st, there'll be some additional reporting. And it looks like it has mostly to do with prevention of money laundering. You do have a situation with LLCs that it could be easy to, that's the whole point, commingle funds, hide money, um, use an LLC as a shell in order to take deductions that you shouldn't be taking. So this is probably a process in place to minimize that. What that looks like yet, I don't know, but I will do some research on it and see, what it will require. It's probably some additional paperwork or sign offs attesting to that you're not doing what you should not be doing. But I'm going to look more into it.
All right. And we also have some questions that are a little repetitive from our last session, our first session, and that is recorded and it is available on our website. So if you'd like, please go watch those recordings if you'd like, as they are publicly available. So I'll try not to address those questions. We'll get to them, hopefully, but I'll try to get some new questions for this session. All right, so next question is from Michelle. I can also help answer this. Michelle asked, to meet with you as a new business, what do I need to have to prepare for this meeting? And Michelle, I will assume for this question that you have not registered yet. You would like to register. So I'll give you two answers. If you'd like to register and start your business, you can register to speak with Vanessa. If you already are in business and you'd like to talk to a consultant, you can see the links on the screen that Vanessa is sharing currently. And you can click on that link. The slides will be available to you, and these links are already shared in our chat as well. So again, with Vanessa, for new formations and registrations, assuming that you have not registered already, that would be a consultation with Vanessa. If not, then just a regular consultation with us. All right. Next question is from Matthew, who asked, how do I know if my business name is already taken?
So you'll see further up in the presentation, there is a link that is provided that will take you straight to the NJ portal available business names. And you'll see you can play with keywords and you can type it in and it will let you know if the business name is available or not.
Yeah.
And if you're, don't get so disheartened if you find that it's not available. It's not that nutty in that if you change, if you add a word or tweak it a little bit, normally you can make it so that they'll allow you to use it.
Exactly. Okay, we have a question from Nancy who asks, I have my EIN and LLC papers. However, I was told I needed a DBA and could not open an account. What should I do now?
So we're probably, and I need a little more information. It sounds like maybe you're not using the right terminology. If you have an LLC that the legal name matches your tax ID number, you can open a business bank account. The DBA has nothing to do with that. But can you, Uzma, can you repeat exactly how she worded it? Maybe I'm trying to understand.
Sure. I have my EIN and LLC papers.
Okay.
However, I was told I needed a DBA and could not open an account. What should I do now? I'm assuming they're trying to open a bank account,
Yeah,
a business bank account.
So in order to open the business bank account, in the name of the LLC, the certificate of formation, whatever name you picked, if that matches the IRS letter name, you're fine. So I'm not 100%. Now I'm trying to think. Sometimes what happens, I'm not saying this happened here, is when people go to get their, when sometimes people go to get their EIN and they're asked for a name, they put the DBA down. And then they go to form their LLC. And now we're not matching. So there has to be some consistency. So perhaps we're not matching and that's the problem. I'd have to maybe, speak to you offline to, look at your paperwork to understand more clearly. But that is a common issue when the EIN letter from the IRS, the name used there does not match the legal LLC name. A tax ID number does not get assigned to a DBA. It can get assigned to a trade name when you're doing a sole proprietorship. But the alternate business name is just that. I'm interchanging DBA with alternate business name. Alternate business name is just a name that you use to market yourself because it's how you want to identify. However, your tax ID number for your company has to match the LLC legal name. There is a place with the IRS on that application where you'll see legal name of business, and underneath it, there's a line that says trade name. Again, they're using the word trade name, but you can put your alternate business name underneath it as long as the LLC name on the EIN letter matches the LLC on your certificate of formation.
Got it.
Hope that answers the question.
Mm-hmm. In that same line, we'll go with the next question. You spoke about keeping the business and the personal bank accounts separate. How does it work if I need to buy supplies to start my business? For example, what if I need to buy a printer to run my business? Is it typical to start your business bank account with a certain amount of money?
So now we're getting into, these are great questions, by the way. And as business owners, we start with nothing. Okay. Let's just say we form the LLC